Your Majesty, this is just the beginning of the second day of your state visit, and I can already say it has been very successful. It's a busy day today, as it will be tomorrow in Oporto. But I'm sure that at the end of those 3 days, we'll have an outcome strengthening our bilateral relationship and our common position in Europe and in the world. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me congratulate CIP and FEB for this forum. It comes at the precise moment because Europe is at a crossroad, and we are facing so many challenges, bilaterally, but multilaterally, that it's very good to have the businessmen of both countries discussing them, debating them, and reflecting on them. For me, it's an honor and a pleasure, and I do congratulate also the Chamber of Commerce for 100 years of history. It's quite a lot. It has been a clever, dynamic, and inspired activity. Well, there are different areas where investment and commerce between the Kingdom of Belgium and Portugal are increasing now at a very encouraging rate. And there is potential to do more and better on both sides. But before looking ahead, I would like to recall a very important historical moment involving our two peoples and go back to the 15th and 16th centuries, a time of prosperity and pioneering in the global view of the world. We would have to go back to 1389 to recall the first trade treaty with Flanders, even before the start of the Portuguese maritime expansion. A trading post was established in Bruges, where a representative of the King of Portugal lived, and which was described in detail by the chronicles of the time. In the initial trades, Portugal sold wine, oil, figs and raisins, wood and sugar from the island of Madeira, or cork, which was used for shoes and ships. Later, in the second half of the 15th century and during the 16th century, other products were sold that came from every region of the world. Also with the help, not just, but also with the help of your financing, we could go on with the so-called discoveries, with a maritime fleet that sailed across seas never being navigated before. Today, Portugal is different. It's a platform where people from all over the world meet in business, in culture, in technology, in tourism, in digital, the Web Summit, for 10 more years in Lisbon. Linked to the various continents where the Portuguese language is spoken, and where the influence and way of being of the Portuguese is an asset, as we could see with the election of the Secretary General of the United Nations and the election of the Director General of the Migration International Organization. And today, the Kingdom of Belgium is the 9th biggest customer from the exports of some 2,400 Portuguese companies. It is Portugal's 7th biggest supplier, and it is above all a country friendly to Portugal, whether because of historical bilateral relations or within the framework of the European Union. There is an enormous potential to strengthen our relations and to equalize the trade balance. For instance, speaking under the Portuguese point of view, highlighting the Portuguese exports of machinery, chemicals, fuels, food, wine, medicines, footwear, but also under your point of view, banking, services, investment, mobility, energy, and other opportunities. And we cannot overlook the importance of the economy of the sea and the oceans a subject that so much motivates Your Majesties, the King and the Queen of the Belgians. But much more than this bilateral relationship is our inclusion in Europe. And coming to this point, forgetting the written speech, I must address some of the subjects that have been here mentioned, both by the chairman of SIP and the chairman of FEB. First of all, the worldwide challenges. We do know what we don't want. We don't want isolationism. We don't want unilateralism. We don't want protectionism. We do want free trade. We don't want a trade war. We would rather negotiate hard to find out agreements between Europe and neighboring regions, between Europe and old friends like United States of America or Canada or other continents. Always better than having a trade war. The trade war is a war, and as any war, it's the beginning of other wars. So it's not good news. We should avoid it with patience. The way the Europeans know how to do it, because we have a very old tradition of balancing the world. Europe is crucial for the balance of the world. The world wouldn't be the same without Europe. But that means having a united Europe. We do know that many want to split Europe for strategic reasons, for tactical reasons, for nonsense reasons, for electoral internal reasons. And at the end of the day, those would have to pay much more than they are already paying with a divided Europe. It's a mistake. So we must go on explaining it is a mistake. It is hard to explain to those that are not long-lasting allies. Anyway, sometimes it's tough to explain it to long-lasting allies. They should lose. It's a game of lose-lose, as you said, Mr. Chairman of FEB. But inside Europe, we have challenges. Challenges. First one, the one of uniting Europe. We must avoid to have different Europes inside Europe. You could say it's inevitable. Of course, we are different. And that's very good for Europe. It's different. Different is not the same as being incompatible. Unifying Europe first. Then trying to not postpone what should be postponed. We have 6 months till the next European elections. 6 months ahead. Before avoiding more fragmentation in European Parliament. A tougher composition of the European Commission. A weaker European Commission. We must avoid it. So we have to work hard and quickly. We have to face challenges as minimal agreements on migrations, refugees, on the European role abroad, foreign policy in the neighboring regions, all over the world, but also challenges like EMU, some points, minimal points in the institutional frame, the financial multi-annual framework. Those are so important issues that being postponed means having more problems and a more dangerous situation in Europe. Because postponing the answer to those problems, to those challenges, is giving opportunities to Eurosceptics, to those that criticize Europe for not acting, for those that, in a way, become more and more xenophobic, closed economies and societies. And that is not good news for Europe. We should avoid it. We should avoid it. So in a sense, your role is a key role. Because one of the advantages of the entrepreneur and businessmen and women is that you don't wait for the events. You anticipate the events. And this time you must anticipate the events. You must debate, decide, and act. That's the way our bilateral relations improved. They didn't improve with decisions coming from the governments. They improved because socially an important Portuguese community went to Belgium and lives and happily lives in Belgium. Because so many Belgians came to Portugal, older and younger generations. Because your companies came to Portugal and understood this is a decisive moment to invest. And you could find out what were the opportunities. And you did it on yourselves. That's what I'm going to ask you here today. Don't wait for the political powers. Don't wait for them. Of course, we'll do our best to create the ambiance for the development, sustainable development of our relations. Please go ahead. Sign agreements. Decide. Act. The same way European Union should act concerning United Kingdom. Any agreement is better than no agreement. Of course, if the main issues are really addressed and well addressed. And we have very little time to do it. That's why, Your Majesty, your state visit came in the right moment. Not too early, not too late. Earlier, it would be too early. Later, it would be too late for both of us and for Europe. But that's something we have in common. We have in common. The Portuguese being so Latin as we are, but so universal. You being so the center of Europe as you are, but so universal. We do understand we share a unique opportunity for Belgium, for Portugal, for Europe, and for the world. Thank you.